This is Isaiah 60 and 1. Arise and shine, for thy light is come, and the glory of Yahweh is risen upon thee. For behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness the people. But Yahweh shall arise upon thee, and his glory shall be seen upon thee. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushua, Bahasham Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Salutations to Joachim, pushing his word with true sincerity, with charity, presenting your bodies to live in sacrifice. We are ready to live. Salute you. So, I just want to go into this lesson, man. All right. And, something to the effect that, we tired. I'm tired. We're tired of being down here with you people, man. All right. Because the scriptures liken this place unto a low land, right? We're not in our and then that's why it kind of vexes, well, not kind of, but it very much vexes us when our people sport themselves. Let me get the scripture real quick. Right, this is Wisdom of Solomon 14 and 20. And so the multitude, allured by the grace of the work, took him now to be a god, which a little before was but honored. And this was an occasion to deceive the world, right? This is talking about idols. For men serving either calamity or tyranny did ascribe unto stones and stocks the incommunicable name, right? They made their, God idol, right? Moreover, this was not enough for them, that they erred in the knowledge of Yahweh, but whereas they lived in the great war of ignorance, those great plagues called they peace, right? So, and it's the same thing now, man. Our people are under great darkness and ignorance have taken hold of them, all right? That's because the light has not shined on them, which is knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. All right. I'll keep reading. It says, while they slew their children in sacrifices. And even if they don't do that, like, outright, you know, they do it in another way, man. When it talks about Ephraim, it says, Ephraim shall give his children to the murderer. All right. The scriptures talk about how our people cause their children to pass through the fire to Molech or Baal, all right? Mainly Molech, And they don't, like I said, they don't have to do it outright. They do it in different ways. They sacrifice them to this devil, to the system, so to speak, right? For whilst they slew their children in sacrifices and used secret ceremonies and made strange revelings of strange rites, they kept neither lives nor marriages any longer undefiled, And that's why the order of today is pretty much confusion, as long as it's confusion, Esau will take it. He'll add it into his repertoire, so to speak, or his big pot of gumbo, as the scriptures described as, the old Babylon as a pot. The new Babylon is even a bigger pot with more filth, right, and abomination, right? But either they slew another traitorously or grieved him by adultery, right? And that's what they do in this, that's going to pretty much go on, until the kingdom is established. All right. And that's what we're realizing. Until the kingdom is established, pretty much that's the order of the day. All right. Debauchery, defiling of anything that's pure, right? So that there reigned in all men without exception, blood, manslaughter, theft, dissimulation, corruption, unfaithfulness, tumults, perjuries, all manner of fuckery, pretty much, man. Any way fuckery can be fucked, man. You know, Jake has befunkled. The Lord even talks about how Jake is overpassed the deeds of the wicked, man. He's out funkled the fucker, man. All right, whatever the fuck that means, right? Disquieting of good men, forgetfulness of good turns, defiling of souls, changing of kind, man. Changing of kind, man. Right? And we see that on a high level, man. And they perfected that shit to the point where, man, motherfucker can and will trick you, bro. Like, that's why we prayers up, bro. That's why we praying for each other out here, man. It's a lot of witchcraft and fucking, man, it's bad, man. Right? And then in a righteous kingdom, you already know, man. Motherfuckers would be see. This is a very disgusting place we live in, man. A lot of things that are, things that should be underground. Like, and I always use I wouldn't say use the analogy of a dead body, but but I'll use it. But, a dead body is supposed to be underground. All right. There's a lot of things that we see and have to deal with here that should be under the dirt. You know what I mean? Yeah, and I'll say less on that, right? But I'll keep reading. Disorder in marriage, adultery, and shameless uncleanness, right? And this place teaches that you should not have shame, man. And that's why the women here, especially the nigga women, man, they act the way they act, man. You know, um, beginning, the cause, and the end of all evil, right? All right, let me read it again. For the devising, this 27. For the devising of idols, right? For the devising of idols, all right? Not to be named, right? Because you want not trying to get a ass no shine, right? For the devising of idols not to be named is the beginning, the cause, and the end, right, of all evil, right? So yeah, man. And a lot of men have set up idols in their hearts, man. It doesn't have to be, outright, man. And we see that in the way these people move, man. These people move left as fuck, man. You know, these people move left as fuck. So they deserve everything that's coming to them, man. For either they are mad when they be merry, right, or prophesy lies. Because everybody has something to say about what they think is going to happen, man. I don't think this is going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. Then you got a lot of incredulity being showed. I'm thinking about the elder Menata Zagba. He always, he goes into a lot of, outwardly displayed incredulity, man. You know, you know, and that's his spirit. He does that. Me, it just pissed me off too much. I can't too much stomach that. You know what I'm saying? But it is what it is. Everybody got a different spirit, but you know, but that is on display because what Scripture says in the last days shall come scoffers, walking after their own lust, man. Right? And mainly Israelites, as it says, denying the power that bought them, man. And you Israelites, you're supposed to be the possession of Yahweh Shemel Shai. More than the truth, really, at this point, is just the elect, right? Or live unjustly, or else lightly forswear themselves. Niggas will put it on the Lord, man. All right, get a word and be full of shit, right? For and that's why we got to remember our oath that we made with Yahweh Bashim Shai, man, because really that's what it's about, you know. That's why we were given a granted return, through Yahweh Shai's sacrifice. There had to be a sacrifice for us to return. That's just the way the Lord works. As you read the scriptures, it says, "For in so much as their trust is in idols which have no life, you know, all right, and idols. No, you even have a term called ideologue, right? Because a lot of these people, these elected officials, they are what you would consider ideologues, which makes them idols. But you don't really have to be a dead thing to be an idol. You could be a living idol, all right. And these characters like Donald Trump and all these motherfuckers, they're living idols, man. It's just like you got a picture on your wall, but then the cartel come in and chop you up, man, and the picture just can't do nothing but look at you, man. He ain't even really look at you because he ain't alive. All right. It says, "For in so much as their trust is in idols which have no life, though they swear falsely, yet they look not to be hurt. Howbeit, for both causes shall they be justly punished, both because they thought not well of Yahweh, giving heed unto idols, and also unjustly swore in deceit, despising holiness." All right, and the scriptures talk about how you trust in perverseness and stay there wrong, man. These people trust in perverseness. This place is completely perverse, man. Everywhere you look is a crime scene. Everything is a flaw. All right, everything is wicked. Everyone is wicked, man. you know, and those that have that eye salve to see, we really understand the sacrifice that Yahweh Shai made, and how much we need salvation at the end of the day, right? We're not gonna be okay with this, man, because scriptures talk about. Matter of fact, let me get it, man. Right, this is Wisdom of Solomon 3:14. Blessed is the eunuch, right? And it's not talking about the nigga who got his dick and his nuts cut off, right? It's talking about somebody who holds an office, okay? All right, and through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shemi Shai, we hold the office of being prophets, right? Which is Salakia. Blessed and Salakia. Wisdom of Solomon 3:14. Blessed is the eunuch which with his hands have wrought no iniquity, nor imagine wicked things against Yahweh. For unto him shall be given the special gift of faith and an inheritance in the temple of Yahweh, more acceptable to his mind. Right, because what the scripture says, hold on. Right, this is 1 Corinthians 2:14. But the natural man receiveth not the things of the Spirit of Yahweh, for they are foolishness unto him, neither can he know them, because they are spiritually discerned. Right. But he that is spiritual judgeth all things, yet he himself is judge of no man. So, hey, look, as scripture says, we have a more sure word of prophecy, wherein you do well that you take heed, man. Because that, to quote the Apostle Taha, the prophet is Yahweh's man, man. Yahweh Bashim Shai's man, man. All right, and in truth, prophets are above kings, man. Only kings that were above prophets were prophets themselves. They were kings and prophets, especially, if you're speaking of our King David, of course. All right, the head of the church, which he was also Peter, right? It says, "For who have known the mind of Yahweh that he may instruct him, but we have the mind of Hamashiach." All right, so, hey, and the inspiration comes from the Almighty, man. All the instruction, that's how we're able to sing this song. That's how we're able to give the sense of the things that are going on, within the world. That's how we're able to filter things through the spirit, through the scriptures, man. Because all these things, were foretold before. At the end of the day, they're just playing out, you know. And I've heard, brothers say, the world is just catching up to prophecy. Prophecy was way ahead. The word of Yahweh Shemir Shah was way ahead of everyone and everything at the end of the day. Now everything and everybody is just pretty much really just attempting to catch up, you know. All right, because, only the elect are going to be able to truly accept what Yahweh Shemir Shah has proposed upon, the world and even upon ourselves, what his requirements are. All right, you know, and what his sacrifices are. As the scripture says, the sacrifices of Yahweh Shemir Shah is a humble and contrite spirit, man. Somebody that's repentant, constantly repentant of their lacking. And I always say this, man. Anybody who doesn't want to be like Yahweh Shai is wicked, man, by default. By default, you're a fucking wicked piece of shit if you don't want to be Yahweh Shai. That means you don't acknowledge his sacrifice. That's one thing, and you don't acknowledge that he is perfection, man, and that he deserves perfection. You know, which makes you a hypocrite, man. Because you'll literally have people say, the Lord and Jesus. You even have people say, oh, he is black, and they agree with all that, but they don't really stand upon his sacrifice, man. Even when we condemn ourselves, like we can even make the mistake of condemning ourselves, man. When you do that, sometimes when you do that, that's really denying Yahweh Shai's sacrifice, man. Like, saying that, you're too wicked to be saved. Yeah, we wicked. The flesh is wicked. Yeah, all that. But if you saying that you can't be redeemed, then you saying that the Lord's blood ain't good enough. It ain't a good enough payment. Right? The Lord ain't. Nah, that's the payment. All right, but you got to have faith, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shemir Shah, man. The Lord has bought those, and those that are bought will have faith at the end of the day, man. You know, and the spirit of Yahweh Shai is the spirit of prophecy, man. We're the ones who see what's really going on, man. Why the things in the earth are happening, how they're happening. That these things ain't gonna stop. They're not stopping. They're just ramping up. Because a baby's being born. Matter of fact, let me get it, man. Let me get it, man. Yeah, let's be real about what's really happening, man. This is Isaiah 66. This is Isaiah 66. Excuse me. And 5. Hear the word of Yahweh, ye that tremble at his word. Your brethren that hated you hath cast you out for my name's sake. Said, let Yahweh be glorified. But he shall appear to your joy, and they shall be ashamed, right? It talks about that, was, I believe, Second Ezra. No, that's Wisdom of Solomon. It says us repenting and groaning. They're going to be amazed at the strangeness of our salvation. Lord willing, we be at that number at the end of the day. A voice of noise, the city, a voice, Salakia, a voice of noise from the city, a voice from the temple, a voice of Yahweh that rendereth recompense to his enemies. Before she travailed, she brought forth. Before her pain came, she was delivered of a man child. Right. And, you know, it talks about that in Revelation, man. How the woman, um, she was travailing in pain, man, to give birth. Right. And that what happened, you had that dragon try to come, attack her and her child, you know, because they understand that a nation is being born. See, your elites, they get that much, right? The Lord, or it says, thou art wiser than Daniel. There is there's no, nothing that they can hide from thee. So, roughly paraphrasing, Salaki. Who have heard such a thing, who have seen such a thing, shall the earth be made to bring forth in one day? Right. Hey, and the scriptures talk about how in 1 hour your kingdom is going to be destroyed, man. The death of your kingdom is the birth of Yasharallah, man. It's the birth of the kingdom of David, the kingdom of Yahweh Shai, actually. David being under the kingdom of Yasharallah, man, right? So let me keep reading. It says, shall the earth be made to bring forth in one day? Or shall a nation be born at once? For as soon as Zion travailed, she brought forth her children. Shall I bring to the birth and not cause to bring forth, saith Yahweh? Shall I cause to bring forth and shut the womb, saith Yahweh? So, hey, look, this is happening, man. Just like, it talks about that in, second Ezra's, right? A woman, she can't hold that baby, man. Is going to be born, man, right? Rejoice, yep. It says, rejoice ye with Jerusalem and be glad with her. All ye that love her, rejoice for the joy with her. All ye that mourn for her, right? And, hey, and it's crazy, man. We got a whole bunch of fucking heathens claiming to be us, man. And what's happening? They getting hit with fucking missiles, man. Before that, they were getting sprayed with fucking some shit called skunk cannons. It's a fucking mess that's going on over there, man. As the scripture says, Jerusalem shall be trodden of the Gentiles at the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled, man. And they got the biggest fucking sodomite parade the earth has ever fucking seen over there, man. All right, how long did you think this shit was gonna last, man? Hey, man. Hey, have you not gone by the way? Do you not know the tokens, man? All right. Only if they had understood their latter end, right? Hey, man, righteousness is immortal, man. That's it. Anything else is fucking dead works, man. As the scripture says, man. And we got to purge ourselves from dead works, man. The works of this world are really dead, man. See, we're laying up treasures in heaven, man, right now. We're rich, all right? We're laying up treasures in heaven right now, man, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Shai, man. Scriptures talk about, scriptures say, don't come before the Lord empty, man. Oh, and it also talks about making the altar fat, man, all right? But guess what, man? There's going to be some brothers and sisters who only got one dove. Hey, the dove might even have a fucked up broken wing, man. Something that, in the old covenant, with the Levites would not have been accepted, man. But through this, man, sincerity it goes a long way, man. There's something else going on here, man. If mercy is going on here right now through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shemai Shai, Yahweh Shai is that mercy seat, and that's what it is. In this time, things have changed, and we're richer because of it. Hey, oh my God, through the sacrifice. See, that's the thing, man. Through the sacrifice Yahweh Shai made, we're richer. We're richer. We're that much closer to what he is now. But Salakia, if I'm, rambling, you know what I'm saying, in this lesson, but I hope I'm making sense, you know what I'm saying. It's all uphill for the elect, man. You know, it's all uphill for the elect. Hey, like the brother you call likes to go into the song of ascension. We're ascending. All right. But yeah, no. Sorry, this lesson was a little bit all over the place. Yeah, shalom.